For a long time, the halls of justice in America were painted in shades of white and male. The legal profession was a domain where diversity was not just rare but almost non-existent. The courtrooms, the law firms, and the judicial benches were predominantly occupied by white men, creating an environment that was unwelcoming and inaccessible to others. Black people, especially black women, were almost entirely absent from positions of legal power. They were not seen as fit to practice law, let alone preside over cases or argue in courtrooms. The barriers were not just professional but deeply personal, rooted in a society that systematically marginalized them. Imagine a system meant to uphold fairness and justice, yet it lacked the voices and experiences of a huge chunk of the population. The legal system, which is supposed to be the bedrock of equality, was ironically a reflection of the very inequalities it was meant to combat. Without representation, the laws and their enforcement were skewed, often failing to protect the rights of all citizens. This wasn't just an oversight, it was a reflection of deep-rooted inequality. The exclusion of black women from the legal field was a deliberate act, a manifestation of the broader societal norms that sought to keep them in subservient roles. The struggle for civil rights was not just about gaining access to public spaces but also about breaking into professional fields that had long been closed off. The very idea of a black woman lawyer seemed like a distant dream. It was a notion that was often met with skepticism and outright hostility, yet despite the odds there were those who dared to dream. They pursued education, fought against discrimination, and slowly began to carve out a space for themselves in the legal world. But dreams, fueled by courage and determination, have a way of becoming reality. The journey was arduous, filled with countless obstacles and moments of doubt. However, the resilience and tenacity of these pioneering black women lawyers began to pay off. They not only entered the legal profession but also excelled in it, proving their detractors wrong and paving the way for future generations. Today, the landscape of the legal profession is slowly but surely changing. Black women are now seen in roles that were once deemed impossible. They are judges, attorneys, and legal scholars contributing their unique perspectives and experiences to the field. Their presence is a testament to the progress that has been made and a reminder of the work that still needs to be done. The story of black women in the legal profession is one of resilience, courage, and unwavering determination. It is a story that continues to inspire and challenge us to strive for a more inclusive and equitable society. As we look to the future, we must remember the lessons of the past and continue to support and uplift those who are breaking barriers and making history. Enter our hero, born in the segregated South, a time when the law was often a tool of oppression rather than liberation. Let's call her Miss Johnson, because, lawyers love anonymity. Miss Johnson didn't come from privilege. She knew hardship. She saw injustice firsthand. But she also possessed an unshakable belief in the power of education and the law to bring about change. This belief, nurtured by her family and community, would become her guiding light. Miss Johnson excelled in school, a bright spark in a world determined to dim her light. From a young age, she showed an insatiable curiosity and a relentless drive to succeed. Her teachers often marveled at her dedication and her ability to grasp complex concepts with ease. She was not just a student, she was a beacon of hope for her community. In a world determined to dim her light, she faced the harsh realities of racial segregation and systemic injustice. The Jim Crow laws were designed to keep people like her in the shadows, to deny them the opportunities that others took for granted. But Miss Johnson was not one to be easily discouraged. She saw education as her weapon against the injustices that plagued her society. She understood that knowledge was power, especially for those denied it. The library became her sanctuary, a place where she could immerse herself in the world of books and ideas. She spent countless hours reading, learning, and expanding her horizons. She knew that every piece of information she absorbed brought her one step closer to her goal. She devoured books, soaking up information like a sponge. Her thirst for knowledge was unquenchable, and she was determined to learn everything she could. She read about history, science, literature, and most importantly, the law. She knew that understanding the legal system was crucial if she was to fight against the injustices that had been imposed upon her and her community. Her thirst for learning couldn't be quenched. Late into the night, she would be found surrounded by books, her eyes scanning page after page, her mind absorbing every detail. She was driven by a sense of purpose, a mission to equip herself with the knowledge and skills needed to make a difference. She knew that her education was not just for her, it was for everyone who had been denied the same opportunities. She knew that to dismantle a system designed to keep her down, she had to master its rules. She delved deep into legal texts, understanding the intricacies of the law and how it had been used to oppress her people. She analyzed case studies, reviewed legal documents, and prepared herself for the challenges ahead. She was determined to become an expert in the very system that had sought to limit her potential. And what better way to do that than to conquer the legal profession, the very domain that had been used to subjugate her people for far too long. She set her sights on law school, knowing that this was the path to true empowerment. She worked tirelessly, overcoming every obstacle in her way, and eventually graduated with honors. As she stepped into the courtroom for the first time, she knew that she was not just fighting for herself, but for all those who had been silenced and oppressed. Her journey was far from over, but she was ready for the battle ahead. Law school was tough. It was even tougher for Miss Johnson. She faced prejudice and discrimination from some classmates and professors. They underestimated her, they doubted her abilities, but Miss Johnson persevered. She studied hard, she spoke up, she refused to be silenced. She knew her presence in that space was a victory in itself, and when she graduated, she wasn't just a lawyer, she was a symbol of hope and resilience. Section 5. The weight of unjust laws. Throughout history, laws have been used as tools of both justice and oppression. The weight of unjust laws can be felt across generations, leaving scars that take decades to heal. Miss Johnson began her career in a time when Jim Crow laws still cast a long shadow over America. These laws were not just rules, they were instruments of systemic racism, designed to maintain a social order that kept black people in a state of perpetual disadvantage. These laws were designed to disenfranchise and dehumanize black people. They dictated where black people could live, work, and even whom they could marry. The very fabric of society was woven with threads of inequality, and the impact was devastating. They were a stain on the soul of the nation. The fight against these laws was not just a legal battle, but a moral one. It was a struggle for the very essence of humanity, for the right to be seen and treated as equals. Miss Johnson knew she had to fight back. She understood that the law could be a double-edged sword, capable of both harm and healing. With unwavering determination, she set out to use her legal expertise to challenge and dismantle these oppressive systems. She had to use her legal skills to dismantle this system of oppression. Every case she took on was a step towards justice, a move to tip the scales in favor of equality. Her courtroom battles were not just about winning cases but about setting precedents that would benefit future generations. She had to be a voice for the voiceless. In a time when many were silenced by fear and oppression, Miss Johnson stood tall, speaking out against injustice. Her words and actions inspired others to join the fight, creating a ripple effect that would be felt for years to come, and that's exactly what she did. Through her tireless efforts, Miss Johnson not only won significant legal victories, but also helped to change the narrative. She showed that one person, armed with courage and conviction, could make a profound difference. Her legacy is a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring fight for justice. Section 6. A voice for the voiceless in the courtroom. Miss Johnson took on cases that others shied away from. She represented black people who had been denied their basic rights. She fought for fair housing, equal employment, and access to education. She challenged police brutality and racial profiling. She knew that every case, every victory was a step towards a more just and equitable society. She was a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. Section 7. Breaking barriers one case at a time. Her work wasn't easy. She faced death threats. She was ostracized by some in the legal community. But Miss Johnson never backed down. She knew the risks, but she also knew the stakes. She was fighting for the soul of America, and slowly but surely, she began to make a difference. She won landmark cases that helped to dismantle segregation and advance the cause of civil rights. Section 8. Beyond the bench, a life dedicated to advocacy. But Miss Johnson's impact extended far beyond the courtroom. She was a tireless advocate for social justice. She mentored young black lawyers, encouraging them to use their skills to uplift their communities. She spoke out against injustice wherever she saw it. She knew that the fight for equality was a marathon, not a sprint, and she was determined to run the race to the very end. Section 9. The Unending Fight for Equality. Miss Johnson's story is a reminder that progress is possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her life and work are a testament to the power of courage, determination, and an unwavering belief in justice. But her story is also a reminder that the fight for equality is far from over. We still live in a world where Black people face systemic racism and discrimination. The struggle for justice continues. Section 10. A legacy of courage and determination. Miss Johnson's legacy lives on in the countless lives she touched. She inspired generations of lawyers, activists, and everyday citizens to fight for a more just and equitable world. Her story is a beacon of hope, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can triumph over adversity. She showed us that change is possible, one case, one victory, one step at a time. Section 11. Carrying the torch forward. So, let us honor Miss Johnson's memory by continuing her fight. Let us challenge injustice wherever we see it. Let us use our voices and our actions to create a world where everyone, regardless of their race or gender, has an equal opportunity to thrive. Let us never forget the sacrifices of those who came before us, and let us never give up on the dream of a truly just and equitable society.